But here's what I knew, but here's what I didn't know. Right? I always knew Chael Sonnen was a company man because he kind of paints the picture that favors Dana White in the UFC, but I didn't know he was a dirtbag too. Chael Sonnen is a piece of S now. Hey, what's going on, Fight fans? Hey, this is Coach D, the Wild Man, coming at you again. Another episode of Coach D Media. You know what I do. I talk about what's hot and what's not in combat sports. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yo, I just got done watching the back and forth heated debate between Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani, right? Now, let me tell you, I expected them to go back and forth on the specifics of the Francis Ngannou situation, all that kind of good stuff. But here's what I knew, but here's what I didn't know, right? I always knew Chael Sonnen was a company man because he kind of paints the picture that favors Dana White in the UFC, but I didn't know he was a dirtbag too. Chael Sonnen is a piece of S now. So we're going to go ahead and get into it because, this has to be done. All right, let's go. Now, I didn't know I was going to do a rant. I thought I was going to hear two friends have a heated debate and go at it about, the fight game, what's happening and what's not happening, who did what, why, and how, right? But it basically got into Chael Sonnen trying his best to not only discredit Ariel Helwani, make him out to be a fake journalist, saying he doing fake news, and then commenced to calling him all kind of names, from a lying, a piece of shit. He all he does is spread rumors. And then it finally got out towards the end of the daggone, interview that Chael Sonnen was there to be Dana White's assassin. He was there to assassinate Ariel Helwani's credibility. That's what he was there to do, to be a hired gun for Dana White. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Here's what we don't do. Here's what we don't do as men, right? We don't come at a man, right, and call him all kind of names and all kind of disparities and try to jack him up and embarrass him in public if you're not in the same room with him, okay? Because then the man in the room can go, look, you open your mouth again, I'm gonna knock the shit out you, right? But you can't do that when you're on two different screens, right? Chael Sonnen commenced to coming at Ariel Helwani on all the crap. I mean, just laying into him. This nonstop shit talking. You couldn't even get, you could barely get the meat of the interview, right? They were both trying to level out receipts. Chael Sonnen was trying to say, hey, these are receipts I have on Ariel Helwani. Ariel Helwani was trying to come back and go, hey, Chael, these are receipts I have on you and the situation, right? And they were talking about the actual money that Francis Ngannou made for fighting Tyson Fury. Okay, so let's be clear. Let's go ahead and be clear with that. So let's start there. Okay. We've been talking about how Francis Ngannou's whole story unfolded, of him getting into the UFC, him becoming heavyweight champion, him getting released from the UFC, him being shitted on by Dana White, him being signed up by the PFL, him getting a contract, one shot to fight Tyson Fury, and him making $10 million. Okay, give or take. The possibility of that happening to any other human that hasn't spent their life in boxing is pretty much next to impossible. But the fact that he did it was the only story Ariel Helwani was trying to say. He says, look, this guy was able to fight Tyson Fury, the heavyweight champion in the world, to be able to get into a situation, put himself in a spot that they will go, you know what, let's make this fight. It's damn near $1 billion to 1. It's supposed to be impossible. if you're not coming from boxing or you're not that guy. So apparently Francis Ngannou is that guy for that fight to be made. Okay. Chael Sonnen was saying, okay, it wasn't a title fight. You know what I'm saying? He's not in the rankings. Talking about Francis Ngannou. You know, he didn't make more than 10 million or whatever the case. You know, Chael was just trying to say whatever Ariel was saying about Francis Ngannou wasn't true. It was true. Now, are you comparing it to rankings coming up in boxing? You know, you have these many fights before you get a shot at the title, yada, yada, yada. Then you will be correct, Chael, if it went in boxing only. But putting on an event for two great fighters to fight, anybody can do it if you got the money. And where we're going today, no rules apply. Chael Sonnen was trying to say, these are the rules. Ariel Helwani was saying, there's no more rules. And Ariel Helwani is right. There's no more rules in combat sports. When was the last time the UFC went by the rankings? Whoever the number one contender is automatically getting the fight. No, who's ever the biggest draw gets the fight. How many times you seen Nate Diaz come back after being on the loss? You know, freaking Tony Ferguson come back after being on the loss. Freaking who else? George Masvidal after being on the loss, getting a main event or even a title shot. So that has nothing to do with it. Chael Sonnen is like, can we make this fight happen? Is it a big enough draw? And can we make it work? Chael Sonnen was like, the pay-per-view lost its ass. It didn't matter. Ariel Helwani said Saudi Arabia had tons of money. They weren't caring about the pay-per-views. They just wanted to put on the biggest opportunity fight, and they did. Right? So that alone is the great debate. Who's right and who's wrong on the merits of what Francis Ngannou did. That's the merits. We can go down. Two men can have that kind of conversation. But when you're out there trying to assassinate another man's character, calling him a liar, calling him names, calling him a piece of shit, didn't know you were a dirtbag, all that kind of good stuff, and just leveling it out at Ariel Helwani on his podcast. Do you know what kind of piece of shit you got to be to come on another man's podcast and shit on him on his own air? Right? It's not like Ariel Helwani was at company Bad Boy Inc. or whatever the fuck. Right? That's different. Right? But Ariel came on, Chael Sonnen came on Ariel's platform to shit on him. Boy, you got to be a piece of shit. Right? Like I said, that whole bad boy persona of Chael Sonnen being a rebel and being the guy who danced by his own rules and played by his own game, you know, talks his share of shit. I walk it how I walk it, yada yada yada. All that shit is gone. I guess when you're toothless and you can no longer fight, the best you can do is be a hired gun for Dana White. So his whole platform is now shit. Bad Boy Inc. needs to be, I get paid by the highest bidder. I will assassinate you by the highest bidder. Assassination Inc. maybe, right? Or Company Boy, or Dana's bitch, whatever one flies for this situation. That's what Chael Sonnen is, right? And I hate coming at another man. I will debate something. I will talk my shit. But when you openly try to shit on another man on his platform because of somebody else, and it comes out that's what you're doing, then yeah, you ain't shit. You aren't shit. I was like, wow. Am I hearing what I'm hearing? And am I hearing what I'm hearing? All right. Is this what Chael Sonnen has resorted to? Is this all he got going on? If the interview wasn't going the way he wanted, he could have bowed out. He could say, okay, it ain't going like I thought. Okay, Ariel, I'm out. Right? End of story. It could have been a minute podcast. But the fact that he resorted to calling them names, talking shit, discrediting them, saying fake news, all this kind of good stuff, where the actual story of what Francis Ngannou did is legit. There is no question that what Francis did is unheard of by standard rules of combat growth. You start in the amateurs, you build yourself up to a pro, you go from a pro, you go on a winning tear, and then you build your name big enough and you get the opportunity to fight the best. That's normally how it's supposed to go. That's how it's supposed to go. Okay, but not in the current market of social media where the right fight at the right time is what gets done, right? It has nothing to do with record, it has nothing to do with ranking. It has to do right place, right time, right fight. Francis Ngannou was already a world champion in MMA, right? He had knockout power. He's a big dude. He's a draw, right? He's sought after. And Saudi Arabia, the PFL knew that was a good bet to bank on. It was worth doing. And that's all Ariel Helwani was saying. I don't know what the F Chael Sonnen was talking about, other than being there to discredit Ariel Helwani, right? Now Ariel Helwani said Francis Ngannou already had a beef. Chael Sonnen already had a beef with Francis Ngannou. Who gives a fuck? What kind of beef could Chael Sonnen possibly have with Francis Ngannou? He ain't gonna fight him. What? Francis Ngannou refused to do an interview with Chael? What kind of beef could you possibly have other than being Dana White's assassin? To come out and openly try to destroy, Ariel Helwani. This is fucking disgusting. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a shit talker. I love heat. I love smoke. This wasn't that. This wasn't a heated back and forth. This resulted to name calling and discrediting. That's what it came down to. And Ariel Helwani tried to do his best not to discredit Chael, but he like, all right, F it. Now he was calling him a liar and all that kind of good stuff, but he didn't call any real names. He didn't call him a piece of shit and all that kind of good stuff. He stuck to what he tried his best to keep, some decor about him. So shout out to Ariel Helwani for doing that. And like I said, I'm not here to say I'm not a big Ariel Helwani fan. I think it's cool. Some of his stories, I'm like, where you going with it? But you know what I'm saying? But when the big man is trying to belittle the little man, fuck all that. We all know Ariel Helwani ain't no fighter. You see what I'm saying? Ariel Helwani ain't gonna say, hey, meet me outside, we can get it. Ariel Helwani ain't gonna say that, right? I don't think Chael Sonnen would have went at another fighter like he went at Ariel Helwani, because it would have been a fucking dust up. It'd have been, look, I'm going to be in your city next week. We're going to revisit this conversation. You ain't going to talk to me in any kind of way on my daggone podcast and think I'm going to let it effing slide. F all that. F all that. I did not know Chael Sonnen was this much of a piece of shit. I knew he was a company man. I was clear on that. But I didn't know he was a piece of shit too. God dang it. I got to put Chael in another category, man. I got to put him in the bitch category. I didn't know. I did not know he was this bad. I know in this current market, money is hard to come by. You got to get on in somebody's pocket to keep money going on right now. It's rough in these streets. Look at me. My freaking podcast got hacked and canceled, right? So I got to start over. I get it. But I'm not going to sell my soul on open air and shit on another man for somebody else. I do it for myself. If I got real beef with you, it's me and you. But to do it for somebody else, to do it for another man, don't make no sense. Don't make no sense at all. So this is crazy. I just heard it. It's crazy. It's crazy. Right? I like, dog, this don't make no sense. Ariel, man, shit, though. I know it's rough in these streets. You know you a major player, right? And your game is on point, where a powerful man like Dana White is sending everybody at your ass instead of him himself. Okay? Remember that Patty the Batty Plimbat podcast they did? The shit on Ariel Helwani. Now you got Chael Sonnen coming at him on top of what Dana White's already doing. You know you on your game where you trying to assassinate somebody at every chance. But to come on somebody else's podcast where it's going to be live and shit on him means you ain't no good. You simply ain't no good. God dog it. So I'm gonna probably do another one on this one. Cause that got me. That got me. I ain't gonna sit here and lie. Right? I ain't gonna sit here and lie. Not specifically because of this particular story of what Francis has accomplished. Right? You're trying to take away all he's done, all he was able to do by saying the paper. This is from coming from Chael. Saying the pay-per-view didn't make no money. Does it really matter? Right? Saying it wasn't for a title shot. Does it really matter? Okay? The fact that he was able to get in the ring with one of the best to ever do it, when there's so many other options in boxing alone. Tyson Fury agreed to fight Francis Ngannou. Right? Period. That's the story. That it was able to get done. Period. Now, if it was John Jones, Chael Sonnen wouldn't have said shit. Right? Because John Jones signed that big contract under the UFC. It had been Dana White with his hands on the strings making that move. But because it was somebody who was able to walk away from the sport and rebuild himself and get what he needed, Dana White and Chael Sonnen and the UFC had a problem with it. Because it's supposed to be only Dana White can make moves like the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather fight. Only he can do that. PFL shouldn't be able to put on that fight. It's kind of what they're saying. Right? Francis Ngannou shouldn't have got that shit because Dana White had nothing to do with it. Is what they're saying. We're not going to let Ariel Helwani paint the positive picture about Francis Ngannou and PFL. We're not going to let you do it. Chael, go there and shut that motherfucker down. Go out there and shit on him. Yes, boss. And that's what happened. Fucked up, y'all. Fucked up. God dang it. I ain't had to do a rant in a while. Right? But I guess this called for it. This called for it. Well, shit. Let's see where this goes. All right? This is Coach D. Doing what I'm doing. Calling it like I see it. And today of all days, talking my fucking share of shit. To hear from me again, peace out.